Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL official unofficial coverage of week 1 of the LJL summer split. It's just forced to have it.
Times are changing.
I'm still hosting with the mosting, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi Goodbye Marcelino. Of course, I'm joined by my courageous casting duo pair, the Have Good Brother duo of Initialize and Nightmare. Gentlemen, we just saw AXIZ have a pretty solid first showing against CGA, but Arya and crew were hungry for those early wins, and they weren't able to just quite figure out the way through their armor. Now they're against a team which, when we look at Spring, that's where this is all coming to me. My brain's there now, I understand. V3 Esports beat AXIZ rather cleanly in playoffs, and then V3 promptly went and also beat CGA, Crest Gaming Act. This is going to be an interesting game, I think, for V3 Esports on blue side, facing off against AXIZ on red. Discuss, gentlemen.
So we're being denied V3 versus CGA this week. We will see that rather soon. But we will see, of course, that round 1 matchup right now, that V3 versus AXIZ. It was not pretty. No. It was a dominant 3-0 to the side of V3. However, coming from the regular split, AXIZ looked pretty good. What we need to see is whether V3 are going to come back in its business as usual, like it kind of was for CGA. We saw them do everything we're used to seeing of CGA, playing lots of team fights and winning and losing them in equal amount, and somehow coming out with a win.
Mechanics, my friend.
The VCS way. The VCS way.
Except we haven't nuked all our rosters like they've done with their top teams. But for me, is V3 going to come back? Is it business as usual, or are we going to see the off season taking its hit?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think AXIZ put up a good showing versus CJ, particularly in the early game.
T-hot, funny that.
Yeah. That was entertaining stuff. British problems, can't handle his tea. Kind of a northern.
Very hot.
All right. But I think it is a step up. CGA have flaws as a squad. We kind of saw some of them rearing their heads with some of the ways, Gango flashing face first into Renekton. Not normally.
Don't tell me that's not a Gango thing to do.
Not normally the wisest course of action. V3 have a touch more control, even if they do play a similarly fast, aggressive style. And Hoglets, if you're going to Pogo 067 or whatever his scoreline is, doing that versus Boogie rather than New Blood Unica could be problem.
Yeah, that jungle matchup is definitely going to be an interesting one. Boogie, who was words aren't coming to me. I'm getting the Nightmare syndrome right now with words in the first few hours of the day. Boogie was our MVP over here on the unofficial cast when it came to that jungle role. Hoglet wasn't ever out of a full conversation, as he did have some rather good showings, but those early weeks for AXIZ did put a damper on a lot of the team and a lot of our power rankings of some of those members. V3 facing off against Hoglet and Boogie. That's a matchup which initially I started on. I want to ask Nightmare that deeper question. Why did Hoglet fall behind, and how against CGA? And then how would Boogie exploit that potentially?
So he was 3 levels ahead on a jungler.
That's really good going.
Yeah.
So this is the caveat, right? We have been ragging on him, and that's largely because when we saw him on screen, the team fights were not particularly dictated by the Kindred. They weren't slow enough for him to reset the fight. It was just a blip, and then the ult goes, and then he dies anyway.
Yes.
And that's something to be said about Set can carry you out that ult. We saw that once or twice in that game. Syndra can shunt you out as well. Wukong has the Cyclone. You're kind of buying time for the next big burst to come in, and that burst still happens from the side of CGA.
It does.
But outside of that, I still feel like Hoglet had a decent showing in terms of his pathing. He was massively ahead in farm, massively ahead in XP. He just couldn't leverage it. And if you don't leverage it versus a team like V3, they run away with this game.
Yeah. And like
you sit.
I thought you were going to say something. You did
your long. And I'm just so used to you going. Sir, I know you so well for so long. When you give that I'm just like, well, Sam's going to say something rather poignant and thought thoroughly out, and he's just like, oh well, Lexi's going to say something, so I'll just do. I can keep going like this. You know I can, and I'm not going to stop.
He's crying like Galdeado losing his Magi stacks.
Go and initialize. You had the thought, and I want to hear it now.
Yeah, and I think my issue was more with the Kindred to an extent, in that he was looking to invade by himself a lot, and that's versus a Nautilus, a Wukong, a Syndra, and a Draven who's got a lot of damage. That's risky, and I know Kindred wants to be looking for those marks, but that was problematic. It's not the Rek'Sai where you've got the Tremor Sense and stuff, and the likes of V3 are more likely to shuffle that into objectives more smoothly than CGA were.
I would have to agree with you. I want to talk about a part of the map which might be more vulnerable. Nap, we know, is a top laner who won't always try and fight the fight unless he really has to. And against CGA, against AXIZ, he didn't really actually get any kills against Natsume. Paz, on the other hand, does sometimes like to get down and dirty and does actually like to fight when he thinks he can win that fight. We've seen Paz play rather aggressively when given the opportunity, and we saw him do this against Eunyan in that series. What do we think that's going to be the case for Natsume and the team of AXIZ with Paz?
It depends on the matchup in a lot of ways, right? Because it feels like most of the top laners right now are teamfight top laners in one way or another. Both of these guys are gangplank players. I don't think you can pick that if Wukong's on the table, don't get me wrong. Particularly if you're picking something, if you're assuming like a set's going to be top lane and gets shifted somewhere else and they bring in a Wukong and the gangplank just has a horrible time.
Sure.
They're both Aatrox players. I think only Afterman's really going to be playing that. We saw those games earlier. A lot of it's about the champions picked and what's the role there? Because we saw Ebby taking solo kills in lane with that Wukong. Not everyone's going to do that.
I think there's just a little bit of truth too as well, that Paz's champion pool has sometimes been, at least in the spring split, relatively limited.
4 champions in the regular season, by the way. 4 champions.
And whether that's just the way that V3 want to draft, keep the easy blind picks available to put pressure elsewhere, that's fine. You know, with the Echo last picks for Boogie makes sense. And whether, you know, we know the guys play Camille and stuff in the past, or whether that is a champion pool issue, I don't know. But either way, what it means is that Paz is potentially quite predictable.
So
we need to see whether that's different.
Okay. I think that's a fair point. Paz is unpredictable, but versatile as well. So, with that all said, gentlemen, where's going to be the lanes to watch in this series?
I think that Archer and Reiner in the bot lane for V3, really scary. I think that they eventually picked it up in playoffs. They had some jitters, but I think that Eunyan and Corporal will need to survive that lane. And I think that as a duo, they are probably our strongest. Well, they're in our top 3 bot lanes for me. I think. So for me, it's actually the bot lane.
Yeah, I think it's also. I'm with you. I think it'll be. Ace isn't going to want to stay in lane. He never does. Boogie's going to want to dive bot. If AXIZ aren't ready to respond or do something elsewhere, then that could well be punished quite quickly, especially when, as good as Eunyan looked in lane, he is a newer bot laner and could get punished for it.
Now the question becomes, gentlemen, is the resilience of the Narwhal going to be able to get AXIZ there and to fight through the pressure that they had already experienced through one storm of Crest? Can they do it against V3 Esports? Gentlemen, who's going to win this match?
V3.
Well, that seemed rather decisive. As we are a blast from the past, we're going to quickly just jump straight over into the pick and ban phase. Gentlemen, enjoy casting this and good luck to both of these teams.
Thank you very much, Lexi, once again. And we're going to see whether the narwhals will become an endangered species or
kind of already,
thrive.
Are they not already?
I believe they are.
Yeah, it's really sad. Narwhals are great. They need to be not endangered. But we're going to see some bans here. Fiddlesticks banned away. We've seen this versus a couple people. Hachimecha is one who has it, just people are not giving it to him. We don't know what's going on, but clearly he has put the fear of Demacia into them. It's taken away from Hoglet here as well. Varus as well, just ridiculously strong. Okay. Like, I've seen it once in pro play at the minute, and that has been for Perks on his return to AD carry. It was a vile thing to witness. I actually felt quite ill having seen it. And apart from that, it was 100% ban rate in the LPL for the first 17 games.
And speaking of pro players, we may as well mention the ones that are playing today. V3 on the blue side. It is Paz, Boogie, Ace, Archer, and Reiner.
Reiner, indeed. And that is worth pointing out. We were mispronouncing his name. We got corrected by the official cast. It would be an RE if it was Ray. And therefore, we were wrong. But it means that AXIZ are on the red side. It will be Natsume in the top lane again, Hoglet in the jungle, Gariaru in mid, and then Eunyan and Corporal as the bot lane.
Okay, so Syndra's been taken away from Ace. I am of the opinion Ace is best on Nocturne mid, Syndra, Rumble, and then there's kind of a gap between those and anything else he plays. Really.
LeBlanc's pretty good.
His LeBlanc is good, and that is also removed.
Yes.
So he won't be seeing that as well. There are plenty of first pickable champions right now. The Azrael's been banned. There's stuff like the Callista available. There is the Aphelios available too. Archer has had some ridiculous performances on this champion. You can pair it up with almost anything. You go for that Death Stance item, either third or fourth, and it just becomes unkillable.
Yep. That's the way to think about it. He just does a lot of work with that champion. We've seen him get punished when he's on the back foot before with it too, but Aphelios in general is very strong. Archer knows his way around the champion. See what the response is here from AXIZ. May want to think about an AD carry, I suppose, in response. Misfortune is still up. A lot of the other AD carries we
Callista's
might think
available.
about. Yeah, Callista's another good option here. And we know Uinyan does play that, but he's played it more as a solo lane pick.
Yeah, I think it's more worthwhile to lock in something like Graves right now. I think Graves would be very nice to put in. Because you really don't want to give Boogie that champion. Yeah, I think if you don't lock in Graves here, you're
Boogie does play that.
You're asking for this draft to go very poorly.
They're going to go
No, not
Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai. Not first round Rek'Sai.
Does love this pick. It is most played. But they're going to switch away.
You do not hover that for me, Hoglin. You do not do that.
Okay, we're going to see instead what looks like the Graves lock-in and removed, perhaps more imperatively, from Boogie, who has done very nasty things on that champion. Boogie is a big Evelyn player.
He is. Yeah.
You can blow up Graves, but instead is thinking about a Nidalee. And it's locked in.
Game 1 of V3 versus AXIZ in their round 1 best of 5 in the playoffs, there was a Boogie Nidalee game. They banned away all his Echo, they banned away his Elise as well. They banned away a lot of his pressure junglers and just picked the Nidalee. And he did damage, and he won. Alongside that, Aphelios in the bot lane will be Rainer's Thresh. He is one of our best Thresh players as well. We just saw a game from Corporal on that champion. Very good at peeling, very good at engaging, very good in lane.
And the old Misfortune Nautilus duo is what is decided upon it.
Another support matchup of Thresh versus Nautilus. Where have I seen this before?
It's another ADC matchup of Aphelios versus Misfortune.
Where have we seen this
before? Indeed. A complete surprise to everyone watching, I'm sure.
Mild shock.
Graves versus Nidalee, though, is a new staple in the jungle that's starting to emerge. It's 2 carry junglers. Nidalee needs a little bit more setup, but she does offer a bit more utility in the game as it goes
Graves gives you so much more forgiveness. He scales better into the late game because Nidalee becomes a bit of an Ardent Athene spot as the later the game goes on. Well, you go towards the Athene. Sometimes you go towards the Ardent. Whereas Graves just scales up in damage, becomes a secondary AD carry, becomes very hard to remove from the map because of his mobility. Although Nidalee has similar things with that as well, with the pounce being available. We're now moving over to this mid lane champion pool. Ace does play Jace. That is kind of his fallback pick. He plays some Zoe as well. Both of them been banned, but by opposite teams. Gadiaru, of course, played the LeBlanc last game. That was banned in the first round.
I could see. I'm slightly surprised to see the Zoe ban away in some ways because like Zoe with a Nidalee is actually really good poke. Because that's the thing that Nidalee does offer.
You also don't want to give it to. You don't want to give it to Gadiaru, so they have the Graves Zoe one shot.
That is a lot of damage too. Poke options are kind of what's being focused along with the Wukong. Probably would be something that Paz would play. Kind of feels in his wheelhouse. The Renekton will be banned last by V3. We saw Natsume have a pretty good showing on that. Nothing to write home about in lane,
as far as
team fighting.
As far as the debut goes, when you've been subbed in the last minute, that is much better.
A lot worse.
It's better than Pink's debut. Put it that way. I think Pink had a really rough couple of games in the games we covered yesterday. I think Natsume held his own, and that's more than fine. Now coming around to this first pick in this second round of picks and bans. AXIZ are going to go towards the On. Teamfight is the name of the game. Got those upgrades coming through. Stalwart in the top lane.
Yeah. Come on and slam and get ready for the Ram Jam. It'll be On, of course. So much work.
This does open up something like a GP coming in from V3 though.
And Paz does play.
Has a free lane versus
if you're asking for a little bit more setup for an Italy, that would make sense. But of course, why would it be anything else? Aatrox locked in for Baz. He has done a lot of things on that. And he looks so much better when it's not randomly grasp Aatrox.
For sure. I mean, I don't think Aatrox is bad with this comp because you are looking to run forward. You buy a lot of space for Nidalee, buy a lot of time for the Aphelios too, right? See what Ace wants to pick up in that mid lane is that last pick. It will be blind picked into that mid lane, unless, of course, the Ornn wants to go into that mid lane. Galio's locked in. Okay. The thing for me, though, Set has not been picked or banned.
He has not.
Set has just been completely ignored in this draft.
Yes. It has been completely ignored, but it has got it down in a little bit in priority over the last few weeks. In fairness, so that might be playing that off a little bit. Looking potentially towards a Corki here for that triple AD carry threat. You can do so much damage with the squad of Corki, Graves, and Misfortune.
And we saw this Corki into Galio matchup in the Hawks versus Rascal Jester game, and it went terribly for the Galio.
Yeah,
he was
down. Even after the Galio got a couple early kills.
Got 2 early kills. Didn't matter.
Went down 80 CS.
Down 80 CS. The Corki outscaled. The Corki won early game. The Corki won mid game. Corki won the damn game.
Special delivery coming in from the FedEx Express of Corki. Running even in these trying times. We'll see whether Gariadu can pull off what Dasher did back in the mid lane for the Hawks, or whether the V3 with a tried and true dive combo of Galio on top of everybody else is going to be able to win the game this time around. We've seen the two comps. Looks like another one of those ones where Boogie's going to turn up and farm and power and get to a carry state, look to dive bot and throw a Galio on top.
The thing for me is that, so Aatrox and Ornn, that's kind of goes back and forth in terms of priority. It depends whether the top lane is looking to trade on the wave or looking to trade on the champions. Mid lane is going to go priority over to the Galio, not to the Galio, absolutely never the Galio, over to the Corki. And bot lane probably goes the way of the Aphelios while he has the Calibrum Severum.
Yes.
So I look at these comps and I'm like, okay, so Graves has probably got the priority in most of these lanes. And in farming matchups, a lot of the time it is about priority, because when you want to poke your head into the enemy jungle, you need to know that your lanes will be the first to react. Once you get to level 6, you have Galio that can respond from a long range. You have Ornn that can respond from a long range. If you've got a special delivery from the Corki, that is another thing which can go in to that kind of pool of long range follow-up as well. So this is going to be a very strange match about where these points of power within a handful of minutes can turn over and over. And I've got to see how these individual players play around that.
And when you are indexing so heavily into these jungle carry picks, pathing and efficiency just go up in priority again. It's not about wasting time looking for ganks, sat in a bush where you don't get anything. You need to be on the map and getting something done. And we know what Boogie can do with the carry. We've seen Hoglet at times look really good on it. The last game, a little bit suspect on the Kindred, so I'm going to need to see improvement there.
For sure, because going into playoffs, in terms of our power rankings, where we rank every individual role, and we talked about how good each individual player was, Gadiadu and Hoglet featured high up on my list.
Yeah, I remember.
And in their match versus V3, I feel a little bit maligned for AXIZ's sake, because I think that if they'd gone against CGA, if they'd gone against Rascal Jester on the other side of the bracket, they could have made it deeper into the playoffs too. I think it's unlucky that they played against the strongest of the lower bracket teams, and they got slapped. It was a 3-0. It wasn't in contention. And it's sad because they were our Cinderella story from Spring Split. But on the other side of that coin, V3, they went from being joint last at some point in Spring Split. I think it would have been week 5, I think. Week 4, week 5. They were joint last after their first 0-2 week after going 1-1 every other week. And they made a comeback. They ended up finishing in 3rd. They ended up choosing AXIZ as their rival in the round 1 playoffs. They beat them. They came against CGA. That was a bit more close. That one was. They fell out to DFM in that semi-final. The semi-final matchup.
Which was a little less convincing.
It was a little less convincing, but it wasn't embarrassing.
No,
it wasn't
I
embarrassing.
agree with that.
So coming into this summer split, V3 are a genuine dark horse.
Yes,
they are. I mean, I wouldn't give them a 25% chance to win the split. Don't get me wrong, but there's a chance.
But this is actually probably a good sort of expectation to set. If V3 want to prove that they are not bronze medal, that they are in contention for the silver and the gold, then we need to see some adaptations in the way they play their game. And there needs to be, as great as Boogie is, as great as Archer and Reiner are, I need to see a bit more out of Paz. I need to see more consistency out of Ace. And we started to see that a little bit in the playoffs. Like we were surprised by how well they were team fighting when Boogie wasn't ahead.
Yep.
But how does Paz play in the regular season when he's not being a big game player?
Yeah,
this kind of deal.
On our podcast, we had this one soundbite which Lexi asked, well, why do you think V3 will reprise their 3rd place finish? And I think I had 3 points. Boogie's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
Paz is limited. that's not so great. And Ace is a liability a lot
Yeah.
of the time. And we might not see it in these games. You might not be pushed to the edge, and sometimes the draft will go your way. But I need to see more consistency out of Ace, like you were saying. Removing the Syndra from him in draft, it tends to affect him very heavily. We saw his Galio in that semi-final match. It did not perform particularly well. In fact, I would say that there was one skirmish which was played poorly between Boogie and Ace, which lost them a game versus DFM, almost on the tip of a hat. So I need to see cohesion again. I need to see that they're coming in with momentum. They're building on what they had in spring. They're not stagnating. I need to see something a bit more from them. We're onto the Rift.
We are onto the Rift. It's a line of scrimmage, but Boogie went very swiftly to see what he could spot. Was on a ward while he was throwing spears around. Didn't manage to pick anything up there, but he'll back. He'll probably switch out to the sweeper. He'll, or not,
he
sorry,
didn't
sweeper.
actually place a ward.
No, I don't think he actually had a ward. I think he went straight out with the sweeper.
No. He just went in for a warding trinket and he returned for the sweeper before he placed the ward.
Okay, a bit of a mana refund. I suppose the other thing is with doing this is you can hide where your start is, because of course if you do go for the back, if you were on a ward originally, hard to recognize what the path is going to be. And as we already talked about, pathing for these junglers is going to be really, really important.
No, so his trinket's not on cooldown, so he still doesn't have that sweep, but he does have it available right now. Maybe that's the play. He's still being spotted on a wall. Ward, Hoglet, this is going to be a bad red buff start. It's going to be a fight.
coming over. Galliado's coming over. It'll be a 3 versus 2. Galio's popping up as well, but he'll be a little later to the party. It's going to be now some trading with the Gatling gun down there. That was a start up.
Goes to Boogie.
He does get it. He's diving in with the pounce. He's got level 2 versus level 1. He's between towers and forces Hoglet away to his blue buff. Metaphorical tail between his legs. Literally, on the other hand, will have tail held high, well invaded, and we know what Boogie does with a lead like that.
Oh, and Boogie, first game back, takes the first couple of minutes into his own damn hands, takes away 2 camps from basically nothing. He wins the smite fight. He just outskills Hoglet at that first point. It was that even smite fight at level 1. Gets out with a red buff, gets out with a Raptor counter invade even. He's not even killed the whole camp. He's going to go back to his own side of the jungle.
It goes back to his own side of the jungle. It will be 50-50 for the AI bots. The Twitter vote was significantly more in favor of V3. And after a start like that, I can't say I disagree.
Yeah, and this is where AXIZ sometimes start feeling a bit bad for themselves because they are a team about cohesion. They like some stability in the early game so they can start playing around objectives, start setting up these team fights, which they can play very well. We saw them go toe-to-toe with CGA, who are one of our better team fighting teams. They lost that game, but it wasn't embarrassing. Like we said in terms of the V3 versus DFM, it wasn't embarrassing. They have stuff to build on there. We need to see what they can do now that their early start's been disrupted.
Early start has been disrupted. The hook comes in, though, and that's going to be onto Arch, who takes very much.
Double
That's
flay.
a double flay from Reinhard. That's good work from him, but he's trading back pretty hard. Conqueror now stacked for Archer. That hook onto Corporal was pretty good, but Yuinyan stepped forward for a nasty auto Q trade there onto the Thresh. Boogie was around, though, and cleans out a ward. Goes towards this Scuttle Crab. Aggressive trading in that bot side, but what looked like potentially a bit dangerous for both squads turns out to not a lot there.
Doesn't turn out so much like you were saying, but now Ace is going in this mid lane.
There. The spear lands. There's flash available for Boogie. Is he going in on it? Oh, my days. Forces the flash out of Gary Arrow as a response. The extended leap range, or rather pounce range from the hunt is pretty good. But Hoglet's in this bush and Boogie's super low. May have to flash out, but no, Ace roams up fairly swiftly. Look who's coming down as well. Natsumi and Paz trading in the top side. This is going to be a 3 versus 2, but Hoglet managed to get his way out to a bush. No, well, actually, Ace's summoned a burner. He flashed to try and get
Ace
that.
was looking for the flash taunt. Of course, he can't taunt flash anymore. Uses the Nimbus Cloak mobility, trying to get in range there, but the phase rush from Graves gets him out of range. Hoglet
So
doesn't burn
nasty.
flash, does manage to force Boogie off of that top scuttle, and we'll take the flash as an added bonus.
We'll take the flash as an added bonus. Natsume, though, has got to be perhaps a touch careful as Boogie's around on this top side, but he's going to keep shoving up right now. Pretty even for most lanes here, apart from the bot, where Archer has got a fair advantage right now. There's probably a wave under tower, though, by the looks of the CS count going up for Inyan. So we'll see where it actually evens out to. Maybe about a 5 CS lead there.
Ace also burns his teleport to reset early, gets himself that Doran's Ring after picking up the Corrupting Potion to start, has, of course, the Inspiration Tree, so that Time Warp Tonic does give that extra laning security. Bot lane, however, we saw that trade go very back and forth. I have to say, even though I've seen Thresh versus Nautilus so many times, I'm not too tired of it, actually. It's quite interesting to see how the different hooks come in, how each of these supports is utilizing the micro mechanics of the champions to know when their aftershock's going to come up and whether they can burst people, whether they can reposition with a hook, with a lantern, with anything. And these are the guys which are very good at it in this region. I think both these guys are very avid players of both of these champions.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to think about it. And it's also just some truth about hook champions and the skill expression in them is quite interesting to watch, even if we've seen quite a lot of it. But players can make the flash hooks, can make the flash plays, can look to make the style stick, I guess, as Boogie's going to start up on this Infernal Drake really early on. He's got himself, of course, the amp tone along with the challenging spite, and with Ace wandering in to throw some wards down to track out where Graves may be. As we see the first jungle roots on screen there, we know what
we were talking about them as they happened. Boogie getting a lot of pressure on this bot lane, which allowed that 2v2 to go so close to the wire. It's also worth noting that Thresh has brought the exhaust. The ignite wasn't there for the immediate kill pressure. Oh, Paz, that ain't looking so good.
Oh, the second part of the Call of the Forge God does go slightly wide, and Hoglet cannot find the kill.
Both part of it went wide. Paz just dodged out everything and didn't even burn flash.
Boogie's down bot. Now they're going to look for the dive. Do land the spear onto Corporal. Is Paz going to think about going in? Yep, he will do. Get rooted in. Here comes. Actually missed the hook, and that forced a flash out of Corporal as a result.
And Reyna flashes forward for a missed hook as well. So plays on both sides of the map with resources committed do not work out for either team, which is not something you normally say about junglers of this caliber.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to think about it. Hoglet's going to step up here and go for the Grump. That'll be the invade price.
Bertha, so it is known.
Bertha. What's the other one? It's Bertha, and what's the red side?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay. That other Grump. We're really sorry, other Grump. That's not Bertha. One day we'll have a name for you.
Maybe there already has. Maybe
I think it has got a name. I've just forgotten it. Go watch the LCK cast. I'm sure they'll tell you. But until that time, stick around and watch some LJL because we're pretty great too. Until such a time as we're not casting, maybe then you can go and have a look.
One thing which I'm slightly worried about is that Gallardo often picks up the carry shoes around this point in the game. If he's playing something like LeBlanc, playing something like the Zoe as well, he starts creating pressure. And while he will still have priority in this mid lane, he's got Tyr and Cole, and now he's under threat from the Galio.
He's got that taunt in, and that means game over. Does the emote. Boogie gets first blood, pairing up with Ace. Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear. I mentioned his name in terms of being worried about his continuing role in this game, and he compounds the issue by dying to Boogie. That's not what you want to do against this jungler.
No, doing it versus Nidalee as well is generally considered poor form, I think, is the way to think about it.
It's a worry. It is a worry.
Now you've not cricket.
It's just not cricket. You have the Hunter stack now onto Boogie as well. I'm not sure which one he has. If he has Relentless Hunter for the extra movement speed, that could be potentially quite dangerous for AXIZ. He's moving around the map those couple of seconds quicker now. That is important.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And we're also going to see here the Rift Herald pickup, which is a big trade actually because of where the reset came in.
It's Dragon for Herald. Dragon for Herald. We've seen that a couple of times.
Yeah, of course it is. That will be, of course, what happens there. Hoglet down about a level right now. Boogie's around and about the back. Sorry, it is level 6. I apologize. I misread the screen. That's not a good look. Oh, man, they were thinking about that one. That spear does go wide. Package has been forced.
Well, that's the good thing about Package. You can't be interrupted. It gives you a very, very long range distance. It's like a triple flash. Well, no, it's really long range.
It's massive.
It's absolutely massive. So it does give you that extra safety. Of course, you don't want to have the CC land before that happens. Boogie now taking this chance, knowing that the package is no longer available, to take over a blue buff.
The blue buff is taken. Of course, he's got the runic echoes in already, which is pretty big. Missed that spear. We're gonna talk about that one because that was just poor. That's ruined the game. It's over now.
Yeah. Boogie turns out he's trashed it. He's not MVP.
No, he's not.
You can't hit spears on a scuttle.
No,
in fairness, I can't either. But
nah.
I have to. No. The juking mechanics of scuttle are
pretty intense. Going to be another bit of a trade in the bush. Boogie walks into Hoglet again. That'll be half the Nidalee's health bar. But Ace is going in looking to trade in. Doesn't use the taunt though.
Yeah, this is jungle item to just components. Hoglet still doesn't win this fight.
Does not win this fight, but does at least force pressure away from that mid lane for now. Archer and Rhino were roaming up, and I can see why the disengage comes.
No, but okay, the burst was good from Hoglet, but just missing that. But no, when you have jungle item to no jungle item, the power disparity is huge.
And Call of the Forge God comes out. Can they hit it this time? Flash out from Paz for the avoid this time. And once again, he survives an attempted gank.
He's using the movement speed from World End to step out on these Call of the Forge Gods so well. It's, it's half 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. It's Natsume kind of not angling it to punish Paz as well. And, okay, ultimate used in the bot side, but ultimate's used on both sides of the map for AXIZ. And with Dragon spawning in 40 seconds, that leaves them in a position where they can't fight for that Dragon now. They're just seeding it.
They can't fight for that Dragon. And I'm assuming Onyan bullet timing the wave there was because they were afraid of where Boogie must be.
Afraid of a Galliot.
Yeah.
They know that they don't have a Call of the Forge God or Hoglet on that side of the map.
They have no vision. Look at that triangle of pink wards in the bot side.
They have a couple of wards. Oh, Galliot takes so much damage. Okay, that's it. That's teleport would have to burn from Galliot to have any chance of contesting this Dragon. They do have some pink wards down into their into that bot lane brush just beside their wall to see if there was a dive coming in from the Nidalee. Maybe it allows them to teleport a couple of seconds earlier just with that extra information. However, it is, as we said, the Dragon will be seeded by AXIZ. 2 early Dragons this time taken for V3. Of course, AXIZ did that in their last game and then couldn't consolidate that into a Dragon Soul later into the game.
Looks like the Rift Herald will be summoned in mid lane.
That's a good response. That's a good response.
That is the response to make, especially when you don't really have any vision to speak of out of the river.
Gold
Rift Herald
only went to the
Graves. Taunt in, forced to flash out of Gary Aru one more time. Ace has been playing this matchup really well, I actually have to say.
Is it Ace or is it Jungle Diff right now? Boogie's been putting a lot of pressure onto Galio.
But we talk about it as a 2v2, right?
It is a 2v2. It is. And having Galio as a setup champion for a player the caliber of Boogie is good. That is, that's worth drafting in itself, in and of itself. We saw Boogie solo carry a game versus DFM on Graves. He can do these things on the carry junglers. You know what he's capable of. So V3, business as usual. They have a draft which they practiced, which they are confident with. Of course, it didn't work out versus DFM when they had that Galio in the mid, like I was saying, in that semi-final match, but against AXIZ, working out well in the early game.
Ornn has gone full armor. He was triple cloth first back. He's going to have no AP resist. Magic resist isn't there. That's just all the damage. Bullet time in the bot lane. Reina is desperately trying to save the bot laner and cannot. Archer falls down to Hoglet. That's a decent return on the bot side of the map.
Okay, so I was talking about, bot lane is going to be the lane to watch. I mean, Onyan and Corporal, they got to be really careful of Archer and Reina. They just kill Archer. They got slapped. Kill goes over to Hoglet, that extra...
Triple summoner as well for it.
Triple summoner for it. I guess they just didn't know where the jungler was. Pathing not communicated there from the side of E3. Lanson now in for Ace. It won't be anything more than just a single play in that bot lane.
Boogie takes a chance to go wandering through the red side of AXIZ's jungle. Doesn't find a lot. But Gariadu will shove up in the mid lane. Let's see this replay again. What happened in bot? Hoglet comes over the wall.
They have vision. Yeah, they have vision here. They've got double wards, double pink wards. So let's have a look. Is it a corporal? Is it a depth charge, perchance? They're walking up to tower, trying to punish. The Make It Rain comes down. It's the Nautilus ult into the bullet time as well. Honestly, he was pretty dead even before Hoglet comes through. I reckon that Ignite kills. It's very well played from Onyan and Corporal to get that CC lock into that huge misfortune damage ult.
And we've seen this before from Archer and Reina, where they do like to play with their aggression. And sometimes, just sometimes, they get a bit punished. We've seen it before for the Athelios, particularly for Archer, where sometimes he pops off and sometimes he goes 2-6 in a playoff game.
That's unfortunate, yes.
So this time around, gets a bit punished. He's still up in CS, about 15 odd, but Onyan turns it around pretty well there, and especially considering they got forced off the tower by dive threats and stuff, that's pretty good going.
Okay, packages from Gallardo once again. Well, there's no openings on the maps. They just use their ultimates from the bot lane, and they're a lot of their setup ults. There's no Call of the Forge God either. That package was largely going to go to waste. In that case, might have saved it until the Herald spawn.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
But without the teleport available from Gallardo, I guess he couldn't reset with that package. We saw Dasher have that teleport package play against the Rascal Jesters, which was so hugely impactful. I mean, it can definitely happen. They just what that means again is that AXIZ are using tools which they could have used to contest objectives, and they are losing all of the earlier neutral objectives.
They are. It will be on Vision this Rift Herald start, but that's just it. It is a Rift Herald start. There has been 2 dragons over to Boogie, and this will be the second Herald going their way.
Okay, yes.
So Hoglet did pick up the first, but that was in trade for Boogie doing dirty things in the bot lane. So. Take it or leave it is the way to think about it. Archer and Reina will roam up, and I suspect they will be looking to rotate back around to this mid lane. Plates have, of course, fallen, did so about a minute ago. Archer has got that level advantage over the Misfortune thus far. Paz actually doing pretty well as well. Look at the turret
He's
play
surviving.
gold.
He's
A couple
doing
more
his thing.
plates
He has Black
for-
Cleaver.
Oh my days, V3 trying to get a hold of AXIZ. Paz is trying to get out. Does manage to get away from the depth charge, but again flash burn. But this is Paz surviving the third attempted gank on his life.
It's weak side Aatrox life. Apperman knows it well, although sometimes he dies to those kind of ganks as well. Natsume walking into the Nidalee.
Still no magic resist. Could be in a bit of trouble here. That's a lot of damage from Q's. Spear lands
Spear
again.
lands.
Thinking about it. Flash. Flash. There it is.
And that's what we expect out of Boogie. Spear, 1 land, Spear, 2 lands, 2 pounces, a couple of takedowns, and a flash committed. That's the top laner dead from AXIZ.
Top laner is dead. 2 deaths down. He went to
3-0.
index so hard into play against the Aatrox, who is now laning against 2 magic resist people. Not magic resist. Magic damage people instead now. Galio and Nidalee don't really do much of that their AD damage.
Well, I mean, Nidalee does auto attack a fair
I
bit.
suppose there's a
He
Sheen in
does.
inventory, I grant you.
Yeah, well, for now, he'll be doing a bit more AD, but he's not really. No, Nidalee is not a physical damage champion.
That's what.
Although a hybrid
350
Nidalee,
odd
hybrid
from,
Nidalee was a thing.
Yeah,
remember?
he's about
Wasn't
that,
it?
I think about 350 off for Lich Bane now, isn't he? I can't remember quite.
It's,
Combine
I
the
believe it's,
combined
I believe
cost.
it's 650.
650,
for
sorry,
the
yes, it would be.
upgrade cost.
Yes, it is. It is.
Third Dragon, now live. It is an Ocean Rift. We didn't talk about that before. That's a high roll. That is a very high roll. 2 dragons up for V3. They have pressure. They have their items coming through as well.
got
There's
a
a
Herald.
Herald. There's a Black Cleaver. They have everyone lined up in the mid lane. The Herald will take this out turret. If it is allowed to charge, Ivy gets popped, dies before it goes through. Smite was used, 15 seconds on that. What that means is that there will be no Dragon Steel here from AXIZ.
That might have been a mistake from Hoglet, but then again, I can also understand saving that mid lane tower. Right now, it
misses.
misses the hook, but the taunt does not. Now Corporal's in trouble. Call of the Forge God coming through. Nidalee has claimed the Ocean Drake, and the fight begins. Hoglet got exhausted. The
Paz.
Sentinel turret is down. Paz is in. Corporal is desperately low. Hero's entrance forced a flash, but the bullet time is easy to set up because there was a big target reticule saying, I am landing here. Health bars are terrifyingly low, and I was about to say someone gets out, but Boogie will be having none of that. His 4th kill. He's 100% of the kills thus far, Nymera.
He's landing a whole bunch of
days.
Yeah, he's landing absolutely everything right now. He's very, very strong. 100% kill participation, much like we saw from Blank on his Lee Sin earlier from us yesterday too. This has been the jungle carry we know and love, and it's going to lead to a huge early game lead for a V3.
Huge early game lead, and you can guarantee that Nidalee will be backing and will have a Lich Bane in inventory before she's back on the map. That's just ridiculous. Look at this again.
So we saw Hoglet use the Smite to finish off that Herald. Does have the outer turret. That's nice, but then you're committing to the fight anyway. I think that while you do have a lot of tools to team fight available to you, it's maybe not the best time to do so, because what are you actually fighting over? The dragon's already gone. You can back off it. That's not important. Okay, so the hook just misses, the spear just hits, and 1 seal shot lands, 1 on dead.
I have to give a little bit of credit there to Paz as well, who hit a few really good Darkin Blades onto Gariadu, who got chunked out again. This Corki has been invisible, frankly. His packages have been defensive. He's died once in lane even.
He's been punished a lot. He's been punished so much. I mean, we saw this matchup, like we said, for Dasher on the Hawks, going 80 CS in the advantage of the Corki. This is within
Not
20.
that.
It's within 20. And it's absolutely not that. And a lot of that is jungle pressure.
That's that's a 1,500 gold lead in that role alone. Most
is.
gold in the
And-
game.
and yes.
In a jungler. In a jungler.
Look at me. I am the laner now. Boogie
This is
is
a Corki.
Boogie is actually up in levels on Natsume. He is ahead of solo laners. He is that fed.
I mean, with 4-0, with this much farm, I'm not surprised. That's what happened.
Quick, give Boogie the red buff. He needs it. I need it for science.
He needs it for his Lich Bane autos. That's what he needs it for.
I love the fact that he's gone for the Ninja Tabi as well. He's protecting his lead. He's saying, look, I don't need Sword Boots. I don't need Lucidity. I just want to run up to Graves. I want to run up to Corki and Misfortune and see what I can do with this. Well, there's Paz who's running up to them right now.
Yeah, but Boogie's in the bush this time around. World-Ender's popped. The fear misses, but they're still thinking about going in on that one. Yep. Collateral damage is used. That'll be about a minute and a half, because it's still the first rank ultimate. Hoglet's level 10 right now compared to Boogie's level 12.
And I just love how V3 are fighting up.
Oh, it's not done yet.
Why
Paz
are you
is
fighting?
here. You've got no World-Ender yet. You've got no flash. Finally, Paz goes down. He forgot he's supposed to be playing weak side. That was a very missed Moonlight Vigil. But it will still allow V3 to pick up the mid lane turret.
And Raptors.
As a few question mark pings should surely have come down on the Aatrox there.
That was an ill-advised invade from Paz. You just used your World Ender. You had no flash, like you're saying, no Death Stands either. Going 1v3 versus a team of AXIZ, not so good for your short-term health. And the thing is, V3 were probably getting that mid lane out of turret anyway. Yeah, with a lead this sizable, 3k at 20 minutes. Well, it's not, it's not the largest lead.
3k, 3 Drakes.
3k and 3 Dragons, though, with an Ocean Soul on the table. That's a little bit more nasty.
Yeah, and it's also where the kills are. Gariadu and Ayunyan are.
Well, if a spear lands on a carry, the carry dies. That's it. That's all she wrote. I mean, we saw in the mid-season showdown, the one between VCS and PCS, we saw River X V3 jungler. So very relevant in this topic. Land spear onto Unofficial, and Unofficial dies. Yep, that's it. That you just jump forward in a team fight. You're not the easiest champion to pull off in a team fight, don't get me wrong, but when you got 4 kills, you land 1 skill shot, and even if you miss that spear, you're probably getting a lot of damage done.
Okay, so Nidalee about to back. I'm curious to see where she goes next,
Forward
actually.
stuff. Does
she go towards the Void Staff? Ah, that's a Fiendish Codex. So Zhonya's, I know he switches it out for the stopwatch. Does look like he's going to go towards the Zhonya's. Is looking to be a bit more aggressive then. And what a surprise, 4-0 makes sense.
2 levels up in the jungle. Again, it's protecting his lead. I love it when players don't get overconfident like this and they say, look, this just lets me brawl more. If anything, having the more defensive options allows me to do more damage because I can play close to the line. I don't have to care for myself and my well-being so much. It means that you walk up like this, you can do it with impunity.
Yeah, the retreat pings come out because Hoglet would have been in a 1 versus 2, and I don't think he wins it versus that Nidalee.
And speaking of the Nidalee's item choices, may as well check him across the board as well. Got Zhonya's in from Galio across that from that proto belt as well. Spit onto Natsume, and we look like we're setting up for a fight.
Yeah, worth pointing out, Gary did get the transformation on his Muramana. That's a massive one with that Trinity Force. The spikes are here for AXIZ. Maybe they can fight this one. They're going to need to. The hook goes wide. Reiner is in the bush. Ace is on the back, preventing Hoglet from coming in. It is Ocean Soul. It's going to go down, surely. Boogie is here. He's going to smite it away, and the fight begins, but not before Ocean Soul is claimed. Here comes the Galio. The bullet time is big, and that's something. Hoglet gets 1, but 2 already dead for V3. That is a massive Winds of War, and the war is being won by Nidalee and the rest of V3. Corporal is the last man standing over here in the rest of the fight. It is a full ace. Boogie did eventually die, so did Paz, but I think a 5 for 2 is a worthy trade. And Baron, my friend, is on the table.
Blood's in the water, the river overflows as AXIZ fall to the wayside. Boogie does die, even with that stopwatch. Jumps into the Corki. You were talking about that 2-item spike. Did mean that at least the jungler goes down and 2 people are dead from the side of E3. But it's Ocean Soul. It's Baron. This is the game-ending fight.
Does Natsume try and teleport in, maybe? No, he's not going to. He's alive, but I don't think he's going to bother. It would be a 1 versus 4. Yeah, he's going to have to sit it out. And if it wasn't broken open already, an Ocean Soul, a Baron, and what looks to be a 7,000 gold lead.
Out of nowhere, mind you.
V3 into a commanding position in this game.
Over the last 3 minutes, they've gained 4,000 gold in terms of a lead. So AXIZ kind of mistimed their approach here. The dragon is already gone, and again, they have to commit to the fight after the objective is gone. That's a decent stopwatch from Paz, ignores the call of the Forge God, and actually Ace has a very good ult here. It just forces the retreat back, and then the backline of AXIZ are in such a bad position. They've had to funnel in. Archer flashes over here, gets an Infernum combo to 3 people. That is just so unfair. Follows up with the Calibrum shot as well. At least, like I said, Boogie dies there, but what a showing from the carries of V3.
What a showing from the carries of V3. 6-1 and 2 on the Nidalee. Has got herself away to that, what do you call, 6 arm guard alongside the stop, which wasn't used to save her life. But, I mean, some credit to the side of AXIZ. The Unyan's bullet time was pretty good there. Getting hit by the spear, maybe a little bit more risky.
Maybe he should listen to more of that hit band, The Fray. They have a song called How to Save a Life.
Indeed. Unfortunately, there are a lot of lives that need saving. It's not a life you need to save. It's about 5 of them because it feels like AXIZ are
maybe you should listen to Slayer instead and Rain in Blood. Just kill them all, Boogie.
Kill them all. Indeed. And that's a goal graph, my friend. It is looking a little bit Everest-like right there. The ascent continues towards the peak and victory for V3.
Yes,
and AXIZ are desperately hoping to turn this into a downhill skiing competition. We'll have to decide when they can do it. Fight continues. Another defensive package. I've not seen an aggressive one yet.
And Gariadu is just returning to base camp on this Everest-like slope. turrets are going to be falling. Paz in the top lane means that Natsume, even with his teleport and ult available, will be held accountable in that top lane, and the bot lane inner turret falls in the favor of V3.
It is, and this Ornn has been in a really difficult position. He's got himself a Bramble Vest and a Sunfire Cape, but he's been laning for most of the game versus Galio and a Nidalee coming in. That armor has done very little for him thus far.
He hasn't made it to 2 items
yet.
yet.
He hasn't got to 2 items yet. He's only level 30 at this point. I mean, it's 25 minutes in. That's a really sad space to be. There are no Ornn upgrades right now. There is, well, actually, there's, apologize, the Forge Fire Cape. Natsume trying to get to Paz. Paz dodged it again, but Hoglet is here. Here comes Galio! Hero's entrance and the turnaround begins. The Demacian Silverwing, the tears are there, and it is all over but for that crying. Paz slays Natsume, and the base is broken in the bot lane. Gariaru is here like, can I do anything? I don't think so. Sentinel turret goes down, and the Nexus turrets are under siege. Just one inhibitor down, but the side of V3 just don't care. They shove in continually. One Nexus turret remains. V3 continue to shove in. It's a 5 versus 4. Corporal's gone in. His Stoneblade is active. Uinyan is getting flayed. He's getting destroyed. Archer claims 1. I'm not sure who claimed the 2nd. It'll be Ace who gets that one, and a Hoglet and Gariaru on the fountain, desperately trying to find something, anything, as Hoglet is flayed off the fountain. That'll be another kill over for Archer. And Gariaru remains the one man standing as V3 dominantly crush AXIZ in game 2 of our day.
And Ace will lose his perfect game as he dies on the fountain. We asked whether V3 would come back, and it would be all sunshines and rainbows, and it looks like it is. Business as usual. Boogie's back, baby. Boogie's back. We're going to go collect our thoughts once again and come back to you with our post-game thoughts. Stick around.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Official Unofficial coverage. We're going to be recapping this game that we just saw from V3 facing off against AXIZ. And AXIZ, it was sad to say, it was just a repeat match, really, for them. It just was more cleanly executed by V3. I think we have to start with the man of the hour, who basically started the game at minute 145 when those buffs spawn and immediately started wanting control. Boogie at 17 minutes was 4-0. Gentlemen, oh well, actually I'll give it to our resident jungler, Initialize. What is this man doing? He's just everywhere and is just so good, right?
He is, and I think it's also just a setup from that level 1. The red buff gets stolen, the Raptors get stolen, Hoglet is forced out of his jungle, he's behind on the pathing. Boogie is then ahead, and we know what Boogie does from ahead. He comes into mid lane, doesn't get anything onto Gary, but chunks him a little bit, starts going to his red buff, then moves elsewhere, He gets early kills with the Galio, and Hogla is just down in levels for the entire game as a result of it. And also doesn't really manage to get anything done, even when he does try to be proactive. Like Boogie hits level 5, immediately hops over the back wall of the Infernal Drake, takes it solo.
He does, yeah.
That kind of deal. Just even when he's not going for kills, Boogie is being efficient, and when he's got ahead, he really just is that 20 seconds ahead of the other jungler.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the kind of momentum that he had really forced the rest of it. I'm now going to switch to our resident mid laner here of Nymera. That 2v2 that we always talk about of jungle and mid lane. Jungle and mid are our roaming places. You can kind of do a lot through them. Hell, who needs to roam when you've got Ace and Boogie doing a wombo combo repeatedly and finding Gadiadu, who's a man you won't necessarily always catch out? Am I right, Nymera, or am I wrong?
Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely right. We talked about the Galio Corki matchup with Dasher versus Pink, right?
Yes.
And that went heavily in favor of the Corki's matchup. It kind of reminds me of the that Avengers Assemble moment where, you know, when it's like, I'm bringing the party to you, and Gadiadu's just kind of sat there and just sees this like monstrous middle in the distance and just goes, that's not a party. He gets... Corki really wants a non-interactive laning phase. He wants to scale up. He went for tier cult. That's kind of what you do on this champion nowadays.
The Manamune, and then routinely go through that, right? Once Trinity Force and hit the 30-minute mark, then we'll talk.
Yes, and he did eventually do that, just far too late into the game because Boogie forced the issue early, and it stopped him from having having a very calm early game. It meant that he never managed to put on the carry pants.
Yeah, and through that, the team just weren't able to really recover. Something that V3 really had is they started getting that early control, the objective control that they just had, especially around that dragon, was just impeccable, and AXIZ just never had really an option in. I was just kind of confused why they routinely did the same team fight. Maybe you two might have more of an insight into that. Maybe.
I think that V3 were playing well around priority again.
Yeah.
So as much as the 2v2, we saw that fantastic kill from AXIZ Spotland. We'll touch on that a bit later. But basically, as much as that happened, priority in mid and bot was going over to the side of V3. And I was talking about, Corki doesn't... Galio never gets priority versus Corki. Well, he shouldn't do.
No.
Well, he did because of the Corki fell behind. They had priority all across the map. Natsume was getting dunked on in the 1v1 a bit. They just didn't have any priority to play around. They had to take these random approaches to Dragon. It didn't work.
Yeah. To go on that as well, there was a thing where actually the priority led to a lot of vision. There were 3 pink wards around that dragon pretty much since minute 8. The side of AXIZ could not contest. We saw Hoglet try and get in there and then run into Reiner and Boogie, who was 2 levels up on him, had to shift away with retreat pings coming flying out everywhere. They had a pink ward in their tri-brush behind their bot tier 1 to stop dives. That was what they had. And so the priority led to vision. The vision meant they were trying to walk face first into a Thresh and a Galio. That's hard work. And that meant they were delayed to a lot of the dragon fights and lost them because they weren't quite early enough to the punch.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair way to look at it. And then we saw them get those back-to-back Ocean Drakes. Basically, the same fight happened from AXIZ. Didn't go in, went in too late, decided to keep fighting even after they got that objective told to them. They're like, it's dead. And they're like, let's fight. And it's like... Nymera on the cast just started yelling at AXIZ, saying, "Why are you fighting?" And
the dragon's gone. Why are you there?
Many questions were had from myself as well. But let's actually go to a point that you, Nymera, actually brought up with that bot lane of AXIZ facing off against V3. This was a lane that you both highlighted on, and I want to just hand it over to Nymera. What was the point you wanted to bring up about that kill that you were mentioning?
Oh, I mean, I think that Onyan has just been very serviceable.
Okay.
I think Onyan and Corporal, their communication's been very good. Of course, it's MF, kind of props up your AD carry a little bit because it's one of the easier to execute champions in that lane. I don't know if you have any particular thoughts on this, Sam, but yeah, I thought they did pretty well.
Okay. It's just been 2 games now where Onyan has had good positions for his bullet times, and again, sometimes it's made easy for you because you can say, well, the Galio ult is coming in here. I throw my ultimate over where this is. I'm in a corridor. This sounds like good, but for all that I'm saying that's easy, the fact he's pulling off consistently is good news. But it felt like potentially the only good news for AXIZ, who were any plays they tried to make failed. We saw the multiple failed call the forward calls in the top lane. We saw all the packages be defensive. Like, that was the shining light, was good bullet times.
It was definitely, they had definitely strong bullet times. Corporal, as always, is one of our more consistent supports. Even when a game does go bad, normally this man somehow finds a way to not stem the bleeding any further than it needs to go. And that is something that really did help AXIZ find some of those early weak wins when things looked a little bit more hopeless for them during that spring split. But they do begin this week in an 0-2 state, and that does put V3 and CGA into that 1-0 part. But as Nymeria said earlier into this cast, at the very beginning, if I recall, we won't be seeing that showcase match quite yet. We've got to get ourselves ready for next week, where we will be seeing these two titans of the LJL facing off. Now, something for us to cover is going to be our third game of the day, and that is going to be Crest Gaming Act facing off against Burning Core, and Burning Core's brand new mid laner. We'll have all of that and more right from us very, very soon, but we're going on a quick break, so we'll see you very soon.